Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. This time we're going to be talking about the question that I probably get asked the most at book signings and conventions. How do I get published? It's a complicated one, so let's get into it. Hi everyone, welcome back and thank you for coming to watch another video. Really appreciate it. Before we get started, I just want to do a quick disclaimer. Please like and subscribe. And I'm not monetizing this channel, so please do check out my Patreon and my books below and maybe pick one up. So, the immortal question of how do I get published? I must get asked this 10 times a day at book signings and conventions, sometimes more. It's always a question that comes up in talks, and my answer can sound a little bit harsh, maybe, but I promise it comes from a place of love. And that is, have you finished it yet? Quite a simple question. I get people coming up to the table and handing me a manuscript, which is obviously finished, and it's a big wad of paper, and they physically hand it me across the table. Some people have handed me their phones with their manuscript on it and almost expected me to read it and help them from there. First of all, that's a little bit rude. Please don't do that. You know, that author is working there, and although I love hearing about your stories and what you're writing and what you're working on or your ideas and that kind of stuff, it really keeps me going and it really keeps me firing on all cylinders. Handing someone a manuscript and expecting them to read it is a little bit dodgy. But those people do have the right idea because they have a finished manuscript. And my question of have you finished it yet is normally answered with a no. There are myths flying around. I've heard this 100 times over, that all you need is your first 3 chapters to hand it in to a publisher. And technically, that's true. Most publishers do want to read your first 3 chapters. However, the myth part comes in that everybody knows a friend of a cousin's third dog's relative who handed in their first 3 chapters. The publisher loved it, wanted to read the rest, and even though they didn't have the rest of the book ready, the publisher was willing to wait. That is the mythic part. That does not happen. It doesn't happen for people like me and you, normal, hardworking writers who are just trying to get by. If it ever happened the one time to become an urban myth, I don't think I really believe it. But having your manuscript finished is extremely, extremely important, because if that publisher does say, I want to read your next 3 chapters, they want to read it now. You better be ready to hand the rest of it in. So my question of have you finished it yet is actually really important, even if it does sound a little bit harsh, because a lot of people say no. With that, I usually say, don't worry about publishing, don't worry about agents, you're getting way ahead of yourself. Just go enjoy the writing and finish your project. Now, if you are anything like me, I get ahead of myself. I do it all the time. I've done it ever since I first started writing, and I do it in other parts of my life as well, but I do get ahead of myself. Let's take Ether Tide for instance. So I wanted to write a comic book. I've wanted to write a comic book for years and years, always been obsessed with the idea, and I finally got a good idea that I thought would translate into a comic, a steampunk comic called Ether Tide, which I'm sharing on my Patreon. Please do check it out. And but I didn't get truly obsessed with the idea of the story first because I got ahead of myself. I thought, this is a comic. Who do I want to draw it? Who do I want to publish it? Oh, I hope they print it in the UK and the US. I hope they do this. I hope they do that. And before I knew it, I'd completely forgotten about the idea, and I was just off in a fantasy world of where this comic book would end up. And I had to rein myself in a little bit and just say, cool your jets, hotshot. You know, you haven't even written the damn thing yet. Maybe try putting words on the page and we'll see where it goes. And I know that's horrible to bring yourself down when you're firing off and you're getting all excited about something. But really, it's very, very important, I think, for an author's mental health to rein themselves in and to not let themselves become unfocused and become obsessed with something that they're not yet even ready for. Now, for those people who are ready, who have the manuscript and they have got it as good as they can possibly get on their own and they're ready for a fresh set of eyes on it, then the road gets a little bit more complicated. The first thing you have to do is decide what kind of publishing you want. There are so many different ways that you can publish now, and they're all amazing. Um, but it depends on what you want to do, how much work you want to personally put in, what assurances you want, whether you want to go right to the top of publishing or whatever. Um, but if you want to self-publish, or you want to get an agent, or you want to get an indie publisher, or whatever, is completely and utterly up to you. I know people who have done so well with self-publishing, and it's their work, and they have complete control over it, and they still turn up to signings and book conventions and things like that, and they have a great time, and they sell books, and it's amazing. And then I know people who've gone the agent publisher route who really enjoy it, and they love working with another team of people on it and getting an editor's eyes on it. It really does depend what you want your experience to be, and what you want your journey to be. I know I know that's a bit of a horrible quotable, and I don't really like that kind of thing. But you have to make that decision as to what you want out of it. Um, Once you've done that, then the legwork really starts, because you need to be researching that stuff. I can tell you a very short version of how it works in 5 minutes, but fundamentally, you need to choose your path, and your path will be entirely different to what mine was. Um, I might do a video on how I got published at some point, because it's a bit of an odd one. So maybe I'll do that in the future. But you need to decide what your path is and then put in the legwork. So you need to hit Google, you need to get the Writers and Artists Yearbook or whatever, um, and start looking things up. You're the only person who knows your work well enough to do that anyway. So there you go, put in the hard work. I know it sucks, I'm sorry, but you have to. What it boils down to, I think, is that published authors aren't gatekeepers. We don't hold all the information for you, we can't hand you the key. We're actually right there with you. We're on the front lines. You might perceive that published authors are ahead of you somehow, but we're really not. If we write something new, or we deviate into a new genre or something like that, we have to go through the same process potentially of finding a new publisher and maybe even finding a new agent. Sending queries to anthologies and things like that. It never really ends. I think that it's important that you gain that mental fortitude that will stand you in good stead for the rest of your career. I know there hasn't been much practical advice here, and other than focus, rein yourself in, do your legwork, and know what you want. And I know that might not necessarily help, or you might not think it helps right now, but working on that mental health side of your career will help you, I promise. So with that, thank you for watching, everyone. I hope that's maybe given you a little bit of an insight into how authors actually work. Again, it's not exactly a top 3 tips or anything like that, but it is the reality of my career, and it's the reality of a lot of authors out there, and it's how the industry works. So, thank you for watching the video, and please do like, subscribe, etc., etc. Check out my books, and I'll see you at the next video.